Did you know that energy flows where attention goes? This is a great quote by motivational coach Tony Robbins. When I was a leader, my attention definitely went to where the noise was, and as a result, I spent a lot of energy chasing that noise. That was fine for a while, but over time I found that the noise was just so insistent and persistent that I began to lose sight of what was really important, and eventually I even began to lose sight of who I was. This sounds pretty grim, but it was such a gradual process that for a long time I didn't even know that it was happening. Sorting out the noise seemed almost enjoyable, a rite of passage for the young leader that I was. But none of this was sustainable, and inevitably it led to burnout, and I crashed. You should read Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McKeown. It's a call to arms in terms of finding out what is really essential in your life and sticking to that and that only. Anything other than the essentials is just noise and a distraction. In the book, he paints this great picture of a wardrobe, maybe it's your wardrobe, to make his point. We all have wardrobes, that place where we hang or throw our clothes. Some are messy and others are organised to within a hairbreadth of perfection. They all have clothes in them that have been there for years. There's that shirt that you bought on a whim when you were 3 sizes smaller, and you hang on to it because A, you spend a fortune on it, and B, because you think that one day you'll be 3 sizes smaller as a result of some amazing diet. Then there's your collection of t-shirts, all with a story that sit there in faded glory. They've been washed so many times that for some, it's hard to read the faded messages that are written on them. You hold on to them because there's a connection with the past that you can't quite let go of. No doubt you'll all have similar examples in your wardrobe. Our wardrobes are like our lives. We hang on to these things longer than we need to, or we gather things because we think they'll meet some imagined purpose, or we give value to things even after their value has long since lost its shine. Or even worse, we let others add to our wardrobe. We let them throw their own clothes, issues, problems, latest shiny ideas into our wardrobe. And we accept them thinking that that's what a leader should do. In fact, it's all noise and it's all incredibly distracting. The solution is to take a good look at who you are and who you want to be. It's about prioritizing yourself and cutting back on anything and everything that is surplus to what is essential. So really, this is a call to arms in terms of finding out what is the priority in your life and sticking to that and that only. Anything other than that is just noise and a distraction. When I eventually burnt out in my role, I found it hard to work out what was essential and what was the priority. The noise was so loud around me that I failed to see who I really was, and I no longer recognized who I had become. It was scary stuff. In the 1400s, when the word priority first made itself into the English language, it was singular. It meant one thing, and one thing only. There was only a priority. There was no such thing as many priorities. Over the time, the word has morphed into priorities, plural. Today, we have so many priorities that it's impossible to give any of them the energy that they deserve. They hang like old t-shirts in our wardrobes. What are you prepared to do to make you the priority? What are you prepared to do to cut down the number of priorities in your life? Can you cut it down to one? What's essential in your life? What can you do to cut out all that noise? Finally, what can you do to ensure that your energy indeed flows to those priorities in your life that you have chosen to give your attention to? Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to bring you this leadership module. Today we'll be talking about how to prioritize the things in your life in order to make you a more effective leader. Priority you. Today's journey will find us talking about well-being and self-care. We'll also focus on helping you declutter, finding ways to cut out the unnecessary noise in your lives. But let's start with your well-being. Well-being is the cornerstone of effective leadership, especially in demanding roles. Leaders face immense pressure, and maintaining their well-being allows them to stay resilient, make sound decisions, and lead with clarity and empathy. You probably don't really need to be told this. But let me remind you anyway. Let's start with mental clarity. Ever found yourself with a mind full of fog and indecision, doubt and decision fatigue, getting in the way of any meaningful progress? Well, making some time for yourself will help with that. And what about that guilt you feel when you've handled a conflict in a way that is, less than desirable? Maybe you've been overly emotional about something. Your feelings hard to rein in. Yup. Well, prioritizing well-being will help that too. Or maybe you've found yourself in those situations where you're constantly tired. Everything is like wading through a swamp, knee-deep in a pair of red band gumboots full of concrete. Oh, and even though you're tired, sleep never comes when it's needed. Pretty sure looking after yourself would help here too. Chances are that when you're on top of your game, the creative and innovative juices are really cooking. You're loving every moment of what you're doing. Well, chances are it's because you've been putting in place the things in your life that will fill your bucket. And in turn, you found yourself conquering those challenges, even those pesky ones that you never see coming, with a certain amount of resilience that is long-lasting. It's like you're swimming in a particularly busy surf, the waves crashing against you, but you don't get smacked down. All of these qualities, mental clarity, energy and productivity, emotional stability, innovative thinking and resilience, all of them are enhanced by well-being and self-care. None of these are byproducts of working yourself so hard that you burn out. Let's face it, you're actually no good to anyone if you get to that stage. It's a cliche, I know, but it's a goodie. You know, that of a pilot grabbing their oxygen mask during a difficult maneuver, making sure they have everything they need to get everyone home safely. That's what prioritizing your well-being is all about. Okay, so how do we go about making sure that you as a leader, that you're prioritizing your own well-being? Well, I'd like to suggest that you begin by creating a bit of space. Start by protecting your time and energy. Set clear boundaries, not just for yourself, but also for the people around you. Let them know what these new boundaries are. Encourage them to respect your new boundaries. Do so by being curious about the habits and routines that you have in your life. Which of these are really useful and which are actually pretty much rubbish? Take a look at how you schedule your day. Are you constantly available? Are you strict with your time? Do you block out times in your calendar when you're unavailable? What sort of environment do you work in? What is the best environment to work in for you? Do you even know? And do you make time to find a space where there is nothing, just solitude or silence? You know, a place where you can just find a space to think, a place to think about anything. When you're doing this sort of thinking, protecting your time and energy, thinking about how you schedule your day, thinking about your environment, thinking about where you best go to actually think and breathe, well, you're putting yourself in a position to make some deliberate choices to commit to. When we commit to these choices, we're effectively eliminating yourself of other things. This isn't a bad thing. You're not depriving yourself of anything by making this commitment. There's no FOMO here. Instead, you're opening yourself up to something a whole heap more exciting, a life both professional and personal that is much more fulfilling. One of the reasons that we feel so overwhelmed in our leadership roles is that we have this thing stuck in our heads that tells us that we have to do everything. Oh, and we also have to be everything, you know, to everyone. The great leaders in the world don't think like this at all. They understand the concept of urgency, but they don't allow it to neglect the truly important stuff. Yes, there are times when urgency and truly important collide, but as a leader, do you let urgency drive you or importance? Do you know the difference? Great leaders don't get stuck in the world of busyness either. Instead, they understand that productivity isn't about always being switched on. Productivity also germinates in those quiet times, those down times, those gentle times. By committing to your choices, you're essentially committing to the core principle of less but better. In this principle, you're leading by focusing on those tasks that really speak to who you are and to those of your organization. And if these don't really align, then maybe you're in the wrong place. In this principle, you are leading by embracing quality over quantity in the work that you do. This is about your work. It's about embracing what is really important in your role and being excellent at that. You can't be excellent at everything, so give up trying. That's why you have an amazing team around you. And in this principle, you've committed to the choice to make you and what you really need to do in your role the priority. Don't rush around trying to be everyone else. Focus on your strengths, find your superpower and embrace it. It's about finding what's essential. Okay, so how do we go about working out what is essential for you? How do you go about making these choices, eliminating the noise of all the non-essential choices if we don't really understand what is essential to us? We can do this by looking at your current work life, investing time in working out your core values and goals, and thinking about what your ideal life would look like. Early on in this presentation, we talked about taking a look at your daily calendar and being strategic and blocking out time for you to work on the more essential stuff. This ultimately also means learning to say no a lot more and learning to be okay with saying no. You've got people around you, so be more strategic and delegating the non-essential stuff away. Remember, you're not an expert in everything. Find people who are. Use their superpowers. This includes moving tasks away from you that aren't really yours. A lot of that mundane stuff isn't actually your monkey. Make the mundane the exception, not the expectation of your role. So what about your core values? Be curious about this. Do you really know what these are? And do they align with the place that you work in? How would someone new to your organization recognize these? Ask these questions. What values shape your decision making? What are the things that you would never compromise on? When do you feel the most true to yourself? And the one that always gets me out of bed in the morning, where do I find the fun in my day? What activities make me lose track of time in a good way? It's this question that speaks to the core of my own well-being, maybe for you as well. Maya Angelou once said, "People don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel." What do you do at work that impacts others in a positive way? How do they remember you at the end of each day? And why does this matter to you? Be curious about this. And similarly, as a leader, you get to influence a whole heap of beautiful human beings. So what actions do you take each day to influence this fantastic group of people? And why does this matter to you? Be curious about this as well. Okay, now that you have a better understanding of what you can do at work to build an environment that frees you up to do what is truly the only choice that you need to commit to, the essential stuff, let's not forget also about the physical health stuff. Getting physical is really very important. It's not just great for you physically, of course, but also for you mentally. No doubt you already know this, but yet I bet this is one of those commitments that somehow falls off your list. You really need to make it more than a choice. The same can be said for the fuel that you feed yourself. When we're ultra busy, it's always so easy to avoid eating nutritiously. Yep, it's the food that fuels our ability to take on the challenges around us with long-lasting energy. Eat stuff that keeps you going, not that stuff that gives you a 30-minute hit and then an energy-sapping low. It never surprises me to hear stories of leaders who go to bed absolutely shattered. They get to sleep okay, but they can't remain asleep. Instead, they awake in the morning as tired as they were when they went to bed. Make sure that your sleep habits are routinely habitual. Go to bed at the same time every night. Value this habit and don't take your phone or your laptop to bed with you. Okay, so we're almost there. Surround yourself with great people, with great positive people. Don't hide away. Make sure that freed up calendar of yours has time for talking with people, your positive people. Finally, make the commitment to you. Write it down. Call it whatever you like. Maybe it's a vision statement, a manifesto, a journal, but write it all down. This is a commitment to you. You've taken time to consider the essentials in your life. Now make it official by getting it down on paper. Remember, your brain believes stuff that it reads. And finally, please, if you need professional help, then go out and get it. Don't wait. Seek it out. You'll never regret talking to a professional during difficult times, or even during those times just prior to being difficult. Hold on, before I go, I absolutely love this quote. If you're feeling burnt out, then unplug yourself and don't just count to 10 waiting for the energy to seep out of your wires. Give yourself some time to refresh, rest, and reset. You'll come back tomorrow in a much better frame of mind.